UNESCO believes that universal access to high-quality education is key to the building of peace, sustainable social and economic development, and intercultural dialogue. In 2015, the Framework for Action for the Sustainable Development Goal focused on education, SDG 4, was adopted with a vision to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. In 2019, UNESCO and the Commonwealth of Learning published the guidelines on the development of open educational resources policies jointly. The two organizations share the conviction that OER can make a significant contribution to achieving SDG 4 for Education 2030. Open educational resources provide education stakeholders with opportunities to improve the quality of and expand access to textbooks and other forms of learning content, to catalyze the innovative use of content, and to foster knowledge creation. These guidelines for policymakers and other stakeholders lay out steps to review, analyze, develop, implement, and measure a context-relevant OER policy. They provide a comprehensive framework for governments and institutions to set out their vision and the scope of their policy, then develop a policy master plan and launch it. The guidelines start with an introduction to the potential of OER and then ask the policymaker to determine the vision of the OER policy she or he has in mind. This policy needs a framework, which determines on what level of the education system the policy will be set and which sector of the education system the policy will cover. This sets out the first part of the theory of change. It determines what change is envisaged through the policy. A gap analysis is then necessary to provide a realistic picture of the challenges and the opportunities presented by the current educational system, its infrastructure, its key members, and the overall policy context for the new OER policy. This can be used as a backdrop for designing the master plan, which takes the building blocks presented in a standard OER policy and specifies them for the specific policy context. These building blocks indicate what is going to be changed. An implementation plan adopts a strategy for how to realize the master plan effectively and to ensure that all key stakeholders are involved. This phase includes setting up an evidence base and monitoring framework so that the policy can be adjusted during the implementation phase. Finally, the policy developed needs to be launched, so streamlining and checks against the reality of the context should be carried out. This is where the policymakers have to focus on the outreach of the policy. In this phase, a policy needs to be officially endorsed by someone in an authoritative position, for example, the cabinet, education minister, or president of a country, and by educational leaders, to ensure that it can have an impact on the education system. Moreover, it is important to ensure that the policy has been understood by those it is hoping to influence, the actors and institutions using OER to make teaching and learning better. Finally, a policy should be ambitious and aim to reach the mainstream in the future. Therefore, a review of implementation and its impacts should lead to a discussion of what shape the next generation policy should take and how the scope and scale of this policy can be extended. This figure depicts the structure of the guidelines. It particularly highlights that there must be a feedback loop between the planning and launching phases of the policy. Such a feedback loop ensures that the policy is implemented effectively and the expected impacts on teaching and learning can be achieved.